This is the first time we're doing such an event, and I want to take the opportunity to thank each and every one of you for the trust and the awesome zchus that you put in my hands by entrusting me with your children, by giving me the opportunity to shenasan chalki, to be among those that are involved with chinuch habanos, and the beautiful time that I get to spend with the precious and dear children all day, every day. I know that parenting is a tremendous job. Every once in a while I leave school and I go home and I parent a couple of kids myself. And that you do your duties, that you parent your children, and yet you take your precious possession and you allow us, the educators in Bais Chaya Mushka, the opportunity and the privilege to be part and partners in the education of these precious neshamis is a tremendous zchus, a tremendous pleasure, and I thank you very, very much for that. The Rebbe said a number of times the story with the Noda B'Yehuda. The Noda B'Yehuda was a Rav, lived about 250 years, just over 250 years ago, and he was the Rav in Prague. Prague was the hot seat of power, prestige in Europe in that era. And to be the chief rabbi of such a city obviously came with a lot of opposition, a lot of misnagdim. And they were out to make the Noda B'Yehuda problems, challenges, difficulties. And they would come to him frequently, trying to trip him up, trying to catch him in a mistake. And one time they invented a story with a chicken. And they came to the Noda B'Yehuda, they said that a chicken was just shechted and we found such and such a issue with it. And what's the status of the chicken? The Noda B'Yehuda looked up the relevant sources and he issued a ruling. And they jumped out of their skin for pleasure. Aha, we caught you. You're wrong. You made a mistake. Not only you made a mistake, you contradicted what you yourself paskined in the sefer that you wrote. And they're excited beyond words that they caught the Noda B'Yehuda on an error. And the Noda B'Yehuda said to them, he thought it over, and he said, you're right, I'm wrong. I paskined incorrectly. However, I do have to tell you that your shaila is not negea l'payil, it's not a pertinent shaila, it's an invented, it's a hypothetical situation, scenario. And they said, how do you know? And he explained to them that for a Rav to remember the myriad of intricate details of halacha, for a Rav to take on his shoulders, to paskin in heter v'isser, and sometimes in even more severe issues, it's not humanly possible. It's not humanly possible for a human being to have broad enough shoulders to take responsibility, to give up psak din. How does he do it? There's a siyata d'shmaya. There's a special divine blessing, divine guidance that shines upon a Rav, that gives him the inspiration, that gives him the insight to be able to reach the truth time after time, psak after psak. But this siyata d'shmaya applies when there's a real question. When I paskined wrong, I saw that the siyata d'shmaya abandoned me, I realized this cannot possibly be a true question. It's a hypothetical scenario that you invented. Likewise in chinuch, in raising our children, we know from the few children we're raising in our own homes that we're dealing with great big issues and responsibilities. And we need chachmas shlema, we need the wisdom of shlema. Day in and day out, moment in and moment out, in our reactions, in our expressions, in our interactions. Otherwise, there's no way humanly possible that we as limited people can possibly raise a child. We know our own flaws. We know how much we have on our plates, how much we're dealing with. How can we possibly be able to give ourselves over 110% to a child, to another human being? It's a special siyata d'shmaya. Multiply that by 20 for a teacher who walks into a classroom. And at any given moment, and at almost every given moment, she's standing on the edge of a sword. And she has to make decisions k'chut hasayra. The slightest expression this way could turn off a child. The slightest expression the other way can turn on the child. And day after day and moment after moment, she takes upon herself, or he takes upon himself, this awesome responsibility. There's no way humanly possible that a human being would be able to do this on their own. It's a special siyata d'shmaya, it's a special gift from Hashem that we're granted and we're given and we're blessed with to guide in the right way. And again, it's for that I thank you and that I'm humbled by the trust that you place in me, in our staff, in our moisid. But it's that trust and that confidence that you give over to us that brings with it, in its wake, the amazing blessings, the amazing siyata d'shmaya that we get, the educators, and the nachas and the pleasure that we see in the day in and day out, the momentary decisions. I was telling Rabbi Sasfer once, I came down from lunch, and it was a difficult day in the lunchroom. In Nahar, we have almost 120 girls here, young children, and getting them to bench properly, it's a handful. And it was a day. It was a difficult day. And I'm standing up there on the stage with the microphone, pouring my heart and soul, performing, because ultimately an educator is a performer for the children. Nobody will ever know about it. Well, I'm telling you now. But you won't know what I did. And how I did it. And what it took out of me. And this is one day. One slice. 10 minutes of one day. And this is happening all the time. Every educator, every teacher is walking down the hallway, smiling at a child. The child's not going to write in her memoirs that she remembers that on November 22nd, the teacher smiled at her and it made her day, and her learning went well, and her Yiras Shamayim improved and increased. But that's what happens. And that blessing that we educators get, the nachas that we get, that we derive from, and the success that we have, this special divine gift that we are blessed with, it's through you, it's because of your trust, it's because of your confidence, and it's a tremendous zchus that you give us, and we're forever indebted to you for this wonderful experience.